It was supposed to be just one night. A stop between Tucson and Flagstaff. Cheap room, hot shower, a few hours of sleep before the next stretch of desert. The sign said, Sunset Vista Motel, $25 a night. Half the bulbs in the word sunset were dead, buzzing like flies. The parking lot was cracked concrete and dust, with 2 old sedans that looked abandoned long before I arrived. Inside the lobby, the air was thick with stale coffee and cigarette smoke. The clerk barely looked up from his crossword. "Single?" he asked. "Yeah." He slid me a metal key, not a card. Room 7, far end of the lot. "Don't mind the noise," he muttered. "Pipes act up after dark." Room 7 smelled like bleach and something sweet that didn't belong there. The kind of smell you only notice in hospitals or police reports. The carpet was damp. The wallpaper peeled near the sink. But the bed looked clean, and I was too tired to care. I showered, unpacked my camera bag, and turned on the TV. Only 2 channels worked. A preacher shouting through static and an infomercial looping the same smiling woman over and over. Then came a knock. Soft, rhythmic. I opened the door. Nobody. I stepped outside. The parking lot was empty except for the orange glow of the vending machine. That's when I saw it. Room 6. The door next to mine was open just a crack, light flickering inside. But when I asked the clerk earlier, he said, "Rooms 1 through 6 are closed for renovation." I moved closer. The door creaked wider on its own. Inside, the light was coming from an old television facing the wall, screen white with static. And in front of it, a chair. Someone had carved words into the backrest, deep and uneven. "Check out before midnight." That was when the television spoke. Not with words, just breathing. A long, steady exhale that filled the room and then stopped. I slammed the door and ran back to my room, heart punching my ribs. But when I turned off my own lights and lay down, I realized the breathing hadn't stopped. It was coming through the wall between room 6 and mine, slow, human, and too close to be an echo. I didn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, that sound came back. Slow, dragging breaths through the wall, followed by what almost sounded like whispering. By dawn, I decided to leave. When I opened the door, the desert was gray and cold, sky heavy with dust. The neon sign still buzzed, though the motel looked smaller in daylight, more broken than haunted. Inside the lobby, the same man was there, hunched over his crossword again. I dropped the key on the counter. "Room 6 isn't empty," I said. He didn't look up. He must have been hearing the pipes. "No," I said. "Someone was breathing through the wall." The clerk finally raised his eyes. They were pale, almost colorless. He studied me for a second, then leaned back in his chair and sighed. "Room 6 has been closed since '92. He opened a drawer, pulled out a rusted key, and set it on the counter. "If you really want to know, go take a look. Just don't touch the mirror." I froze. What mirror? But he'd already gone back to his crossword, pencil scratching over the paper. I walked outside. The door to room 6 was wide open now, sunlight cutting across the floor. The air was colder inside, the smell of bleach stronger. The chair was still there, and across from it, nailed to the wall, a full-length mirror, cracked from top to bottom. At first, it just reflected me, standing in the doorway. Then something shifted in the glass. A figure appeared behind my reflection. Thin, motionless, head tilted like it was listening. I turned, nothing there. But in the mirror, the figure was still watching me, closer now. A whisper brushed my ear. Don't check out. The glass rippled like water. I stumbled back, hitting the door frame hard enough to splinter it. When I looked again, the reflection was normal. Empty chair, cracked mirror, sunlight on the wall. I grabbed my bag and left. But as I crossed the parking lot, the old clerk called out without looking up. If you heard her breathe, you should have never stayed the night. I should have driven straight out of there. But when you've seen something that doesn't fit inside the rules of the world, it burns behind your eyes until you look again, just to be sure it was real. That night, I checked back in. The clerk didn't even blink. Same rate, same key. Only this time, he gave me room 8. It was on the opposite side of the building, facing the highway. But when I stepped inside, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The layout was reversed, like a mirror image of room 6. Same cracked lamp, same water stain on the ceiling, even the same burn mark on the carpet, only flipped. The mirror was here too, standing against the far wall, draped with a sheet. It looked like someone had covered it in a hurry. I pulled the cloth away. The glass was spotless, too spotless. I could see the room perfectly, except for one detail. There was someone sitting on the bed behind me. I spun around, empty. When I looked back at the mirror, the figure was gone, but the bedsheet was wrinkled now, pressed down like someone had just stood up. The air thickened, the temperature dropping so fast that my breath fogged. I heard faint knocking, 3 slow taps coming from inside the wall, spaced evenly like a heartbeat. Then a voice came through, muffled by the plaster. They never leave, you know. I froze. It was a woman's voice this time, soft, tired, almost kind. I pressed my ear to the wall. Who are you? Silence, then. I'm in the reflection. Don't let him see you looking. The bulb flickered, buzzing like a fly trapped in a jar. In the mirror, behind my reflection, the door to room 6 was open again. Someone was standing there, tall, featureless, a void where a face should be. He stepped closer in the reflection, but not in the real room. I realized the mirror wasn't showing this world anymore. It was showing his. I ran outside, gasping for air. Across the parking lot, room 6's door slammed shut on its own. The clerk was standing under the neon sign, watching me. He didn't look surprised. He just said, "That's how it starts. Once the mirror sees you, it doesn't forget." I spent that whole night in my car, engine running, eyes fixed on the motel office. The clerk never moved. He just sat there behind the glass, smoking, watching the parking lot like he was waiting for something to happen. Around 3 a.m., the lights in rooms 6, 7, and 8 all flickered on at once. No one had checked in. No cars had arrived. Still, every window glowed with that same sickly yellow light. I told myself I was done. I'd drive out as soon as the sun came up, never look back. But then I saw a figure standing at the edge of the lot. A woman in a long gray dress, hair hanging over her face, completely still. She turned her head slowly toward me, and though I couldn't see her eyes, I knew she was looking straight at me through the windshield. The air conditioner started blowing hot. My headlights flickered, and then I saw her reflection in the rearview mirror. She was in the back seat. I swung around. Nothing. but her breathing filled the car, shallow and ragged, as if she were hiding under the seats. I bolted from the car, keys still in the ignition, and ran straight for the office. The clerk didn't flinch. "Who is she?" I demanded. He stubbed out his cigarette, staring past me. "Used to be a maid here. Cleaned the rooms every night until one guest didn't check out." "What happened?" He shrugged. "Same thing that happens to anyone who stays too long. The motel keeps them." I didn't know what to say. Then he leaned closer and whispered, "You checked in a roommate, right?" "Yeah." He pointed to the wall behind him, covered in dusty Polaroids. "Look for yourself." I stepped closer. The photos were old, sun-bleached, edges curling. Dozens of guests smiling in front of their rooms. Each one had a date written under it. The last photo was mine. I was standing in front of room 8, smiling at the camera I'd never posed for. The date, tomorrow. The clerk's voice was barely a whisper. "You haven't checked out yet." The phone behind the counter started ringing, over and over. The clerk didn't answer. He just said, "You should go back to your room now." And before I could speak, the ringing stopped, and the voice from the receiver said my name. I ran out of the lobby and straight into the desert air. The motel was glowing again. Every room, every window, the flicker of a dying power grid. But there was no sound, no wind, no traffic from the highway, just that soft electrical hum that made my chest tighten. Room 8's door was open. My key was still inside the lock, swinging gently. The TV was on, showing static that pulsed like a heartbeat. And there I was, on the screen, standing in front of the motel, just as I'd looked in the Polaroid. My reflection on the screen turned its head and smiled. Then the sound came back, whispering through the vents, through the pipes, through the mirror I'd left uncovered. "Check out before midnight." The lights flickered, the TV hissed louder, and the air grew heavy with the smell of burnt dust and perfume. Something moved under the carpet, like a hand pressing up from underneath. Then a woman's voice, soft and trembling, came from the wall. "He's coming down the hallway." The mirror began to vibrate, the crack running down its center, splitting wider with each pulse of light. In the reflection, I saw the figure from room 6 walking toward me, tall, faceless, dragging something that scraped along the floor. I backed into the corner. The knob rattled behind me. The door burst open, and for a split second, I saw what was on the other side, not the parking lot. Just rows and rows of rooms, endless, stretching into blackness. Every door marked with the same number, 6. I slammed it shut, turned, and the mirror was gone. Only the words remained, carved into the wall with fresh, wet paint. Checked out. The next thing I remember is sunlight. A highway patrol car parked beside my truck. The motel behind me looked abandoned. Windows boarded up, sign half collapsed, dust covering everything. The officer asked how long I'd been there. I said one night. He shook his head. "This place has been closed since 1993. He drove off, leaving me alone with the ruins. But when I looked through the broken window of the lobby, I saw a Polaroid pinned to the counter. My face. Underneath, written in red ink. Checked out, 11:59 p.m. I never spoke about it again, but every time I drive through Arizona, I still see that neon sign buzzing faintly through the dust. Sometimes it's lit, sometimes it's not. And once, just once, it read something different. Vacancy, 1 room left. If this story kept you up tonight, give it a like. Leave a comment telling me what you think happened at the Sunset Vista Motel. And subscribe to the Horror States for more real American nightmare stories. New tales every week, and remember, some rooms never let you leave.